What's going on, all you gamers? Today we're back with some more Cyberpunk 2077. What I'm going to be covering today are my favourite weapons and probably the most powerful melee weapons in patch 1.6. So if you want to know which the best weapons to look out for are, that work absolutely amazing in pretty much any build, especially your slow-mo sandevistan and things such as that, then stay tuned. That's coming up next. What's going on, everybody? Today we're back with some more Cyberpunk 2077. We're going to be covering that up close and personal. We're going to be going over the best melee weapons in the game. First off, before anyone writes in the comment, yes, I say melee. I don't know why, my brain does not communicate with my mouth. I know it's melee, so apologies from the start. You'll probably be hearing that mispronounced a few times. But if you can manage to get your head around that, I'll be going over the best weapons and chucking some details over on the right on how you can obtain them. Now, I'm going to be chucking the Berserk operating system on for this one and showing you just how good these weapons truly can be, and why you may want to pick them over some of the others. My build, however, is far from maxed out, so depending on how much you've got in your build and how much playtime you've got, you may be able to do a significant more damage than myself, but by rocking them Berserk with my 100% melee mod inserted, it did some considerable damage. So coming in at our number 5 spot, we have the ultimate blingtastic melee weapon, and this is the gold plated baseball bat. This weapon I find goes hand in hand with pretty much the best pimp ride in the game, the Villefort Alvarado. Now this weapon has some nice damage, not as high as some of the others on our list, but is easily enough to get the job done. Now the crit rate is very much on the low side, and somehow it's considered as a non-lethal weapon, which you could consider a plus or a minus depending on how you're playing, but with these big old jutting out bits on the side, it makes me really scratch my head how. Because if Walking Dead has taught us anything, it's that baseball bats can definitely be used with lethal force.
Yeah, boy.
But if we jump over to a little bit of gameplay, you're going to see just how fun it is, absolutely smashing to pieces and trying to get some home runs as you go. This definitely does the job, and even though it's not at the top of our list, it can be a lot of fun to use if you're going for a slightly less lethal build, but you want to look ghetto fabulous as you go. Now jumping in at our number 4, and I have to put this one in because it is just awesome, and that is the new weapon chucked into the latest 1.6 Edgerunners update, and that's the Cutamatic. I've only been able to find an epic version. I'm sure you can find a legendary, but I checked all the stores and the epic was the best I could find at the moment. But even with this, it still does some chunky damage. This is the first of its kind in Cyberpunk, and now firmly lies in that chainsword category. This is the 100% least stealthiest weapon in the game, as every single time you equip it and take it out in public, as you're going to see here, it aggroes pretty much everything. Funnily enough, nobody wants to be around someone who's wielding a chainsaw. This woman is having absolutely none of it and has a lot more guts than she probably should have, and for that I'm going to let her live. But if we pop around the corner, I'm going to show you exactly what kind of damage this can do and just how fun it is. And also, I love the sound effects on this. The sound effects on the Cutamatic are some of the best in the game and really immerse you in the gameplay with every single hit. This is just a great weapon overall. Again, it's not going to top our list for damage, but in very good builds, it's still going to be able to take pretty much everything out with 1 or 2 swings. So jumping over to our number 3 spot, and the complete opposite to what we just did, this one is a slightly stealthier option. And in fact, it's also a knife. That's the new weapon for 1.6 again, and this one is the blue Fang Iconic. This knife has a lot going for it. It applies a lot of status effects, it applies bleed, toxic, it's not got bad damage, but the main thing about this, and the coolest feature I find, is the fact that it can actually stun the enemy on hit. Headshots stun after 1 second, whilst other hits stun after 3 seconds. Enemies outside of combat get stunned immediately. That's quite a cool thing, and you can put a lot together with this. So if you want to use it at first, stun your enemies, and then go in and take them out afterwards. It is completely your choice. You could do it with a throw, you could go in and initiate outside of combat to try and take one enemy out of the mix, or just go in and absolutely smash everything to pieces, and they're going to get a lot of status effects and then get that short stun period going on about themselves, making for a very fun build. This one is very different to pretty much everything in the game, and for that I think it's one that's well worth jumping into this list. Coming in at our number 2 spot, and one of the best weapons in the game overall, and one that you can get your hands on very early on, so it's well worth having, and that's going to be the Satori Katana. This is just one of the best katanas in the game, and what it lacks in damage it makes up for massively in crit damage. As you can see down the bottom here, deals massive crit damage, reduces base damage by 20%. It won't hit anywhere near as hard as a lot of the other weapons in the game, but once it does crit, it's going to hit higher than any of the other melees, with 553.35% crit damage. Watching this in action with a really good build on is an absolute blast to watch. I would say rather than chucking damage on your mods, you're probably going to want to go for crit rate just to get the best out of this. Taking out enemies is not a problem. However, when you don't crit, again the damage is not the best, so you want to be trying to crit as much as possible. But when you do, some of these numbers that come up, again like this one, is just crazy. Pretty much one shot in anything in the game. Like I said, for early game this would probably be my top pick, but overall there's one that I found was ever so slightly better. So we're going to be jumping over to that, and coming in at our number 1 spot is going to be this right here, and that's the Jinju Maru. This is just ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. The amount of stuff going on with this weapon is quite significant. It has very similar stats to the other katanas with the stamina cost reduction and crit chance and such. This one has a bit of extra crit damage because I've put them on my mods, and it has a 20% bleeding chance. But the extras you get on this, because it's a little iconic, gain 100% crit chance whilst Kerenzikov is active, and with the last strike in a combo dealing double damage. Double damage against enemies with twice your current health. As you can see here, for boss fights, for slow-mo, for anything, you need to make sure, first off, you need to make sure you have Kerenzikov on. Make sure you're doing things like I am here with the slow-mo effect, as then you're going to get 100% uptime on your crit damage. Also, most times you don't get a chance to see the extra damage at the end of the combo, because nothing pretty much survives your first hit, give or take. But it also means that if you're not using Kerenzikov, just going in with that triple combo will also finish everything off. This is an absolute boss nuker, single target nuker, or just for making sure you take everything out whilst you're using that little slow-mo effect from the Kerenzikov. This, I would say, is probably the best melee weapon in the game. Where it's not going to do quite as much crit damage as the last Satori with its first hit, it is overall going to do more damage because you can crit whenever you want, whereas the other one is down to a bit of luck. Only bad thing about this, you can only obtain it just before 3/4 of the way through the game, so you will have to wait a little while before you get hands on this. But as you can see in the background, it's well worth owning and a lot of fun to use. Right, you gamers, let me know in the comments what you all think. What's your favourite weapons? Are there any you feel like I've missed off? As always, for all things gaming, for all things Xbox, take care. I'll see you on the next day.